You probably want to venture into a fish farming and you're wondering the kind of gears or equipment to purchase or to assemble before starting the fish farm. For instance, there are people who want to start but they don't have enough capital to just go and buy everything at bulk or at one particular place. For instance, we install farms and once you pay full amount, we set it up for you. However, if someone is a complete beginner and doesn't have enough funds, he might not have the one shop to just pay everything at once. You probably want to buy it one after the other and assemble everything before you start your fish farming journey. I'm going to start a fish farm right now and I am doing exactly what I am saying. I have purchased my pond and other items. I want to buy everything gradually so that when I come out to install, everything is ready and that will be good for me. But if you don't know the gears or the equipment that you have to buy, then it becomes cumbersome to assemble them and you have no other option than to gather a huge sum of money to pay once for it. So if you're one of these people, then this video is made for you. This video we're going to walk you through the essential tools or equipment or gears in fish farming that you have to have in order to have a successful fish farm. I'm going to categorize this into two. The essential ones, those that you cannot run the farm without. And then I also have optional ones. Those ones, they are not that compulsory, but having them at your side is going to help you a lot. And that's how I'm going to categorize it. This video is going to be a long one and we are going to break them into several parts. So if you want this is going to be the part one. Try to have the continuation and at the end of the day, you are going to have a complete knowledge about fish farming as a beginner. And in fact, this is going to be like a mini course for you. My name is Abdulaziz Issa. I have a bachelor degree in development education, but I'm a fish farmer and I've been installing fish farms and provide fish farming services for people for a long time now. So you can trust me if I'm telling you this and that. I tell you based on experience and research. Now, what are the essential or the compulsory tools that you ought to have in order to run a successful fish farm? The first has to do with fish holding structures. Fish holding structures has to do with the structure or something that you put in your water and you have your fish inside and it serves as a house for them. That's what called fish housing structure. And we simply call it in fish farming as pond. Now I'm going to take you through several pond systems. Each one you decide based on several factors. I will outline those factors to you. The first has to do with cage system. Cage system is where cages or pests are put inside river or dam or sea. This is usually larger water bodies. You put that, then you have the cages and you have the net around, and then you have the fish inside those cages. They are confined there, and then you provide them with feed and other farm management till you harvest them. Now, this type of system is very good and it is better or best for people who are intended for commercial or large fish farms. Yes, so those people they set them up there and they raise the fish. This is very good because in this system you don't need aerators, you don't need filtration because the water from the main dam passes through. So if there's any waste or any release of feeders or leftover feed, it doesn't make it's not confined in that place. Yes, it goes around, and there's always new water or fresh water coming in and out. Because of that, the water is always good for the fish. It always has enough oxygen. So, and this is also very good for tilapia farming. As you know, tilapia, it's good for them. Now, the disadvantage is that one, this can lead to water pollution, especially if the water is stuck water, and you, no matter how big it is, if you put more cages, more cages, more cages, and you are feeding them more, they are raising feces, it will get to a time that the entire water body can contaminate. Another negative or limitation is that if you are not lucky and there's a breakage or there's a torn from the net that is confined or that is keeping them, then your fish are likely to escape to the wild fish, and that it will be a loss to you. So these are as with disadvantages. You can weigh and choose the one that best suits you. The second thing, it's earthen ponds. Earthen ponds are ponds where ground is dark, either with excavator or just manual, and that place the water is kept there to house the fish. This it needs a place where it has high water holding capacity so that the water doesn't go under if you put them or if you put it in, unless you also line it. And probably from my own understanding, if you line the earthen pond, then some of the features of the earthen pond has been taken away. And some of them are earthen pond also is similar to natural bodies. So the feces or the leftover feed of the fish goes under. So the underground soil serves as filtration. I mean, you don't need any extra filtration. But situation where you line it, you can't have this advantage again. Also, in earthen ponds, planktons and algae grow for the fish to consume, serving as supplementary feed for them. Now, another these are the advantages, but the disadvantage of this is also that it is difficult to manage. It is difficult to manage. If you don't have experience and you go in for earthen pond, you are likely to have problems. Now, apart from this, earthen ponds also when it gets very dirty, because earthen ponds don't change the water frequently. But especially where you overstock them and then it gets dirty, it consumes a lot of water to change and it becomes problem. Now this earthen pond is best for catfish because earthen ponds as time goes on, it becomes muddy and sometimes dirty and sometimes oxygen is even depleted. Even though catfish also needs clean water, but they are actually doing well in earthen ponds than tilapia. So earthen pond it is best for catfish. And if you stock in tilapia, if you are not lucky or if you don't do your homework very well, you are likely going to lose them. The third one is, and what is the most common one, is tarpaulin ponds. Tarpaulin ponds are ponds where tarpaulin material is made of PVC or also have metal frames or wooden frame, whatever frame to keep it standing. Or better still, some people will dig the ground and they put the tarpaulin and it houses them. So what's most important thing is that the tarpaulin is made in the shape that is conducive for you. It could be rectangle, it could be circle, it could be square, whatever. Then you get a stand, put in water, and you are good to go. This type of pond, it is beginner friendly and it is most common. And you can easily manage this, especially if you're a beginner. Now, in this tarpaulin pond, when you put in the fish, if it is tilapia, you ought to have aeration system. Otherwise, it can't work. Adding filtration system is best. We still talk about these things in our subsequent points, but we are currently looking at admitted disadvantage. Then you take the one. But it is very common or very easy to set up filtration like the RAS to it, and you are good to go. And this one, like I said, is beginner friendly, and it supports both catfish and tilapia. Now that brings us to the last one, the second last one, that is concrete ponds. And concrete ponds are ponds that are constructed with concrete materials like cement, bricks, iron rods, and all these things. You construct it. It's also depending on the shape that you want it, and then you make it in a way it can support water. This is example of concrete pond. We just have this small cubicle, and we have our fish in there, and they are doing very well. Now, one of the disadvantage of this is that if you construct it as new and you don't treat it very well, and you put in your fish, the chemical from the cement will kill the fish within few hours. So it is very important you treat it very well. And if you want to know how to treat it, we have other videos in this channel where we talk about how to treat concrete pond. It's very important. Now, but one of the advantages also that this one fish grow or perform well in concrete pond than in tarpaulin pond because concrete pond is able to control water temperature So if there's a high or excessive sunlight, concrete pond is always able to keep the water cool as compared to tapole. Tapole get heat faster, and that also affect the fish and their growth. So earthen pond is the best in when it comes to if you want to have a permanent farm, because it is durable, and like I said, controls temperature, and that make the fish grow faster. But it is not mobile. So if you want a mobile way or just to test if there's something that you can venture in, then begin with tapole pond is fine. The last one I have to talk with about the tank system. And the tank system, we can have it as plastic tanks. And the plastic tanks, the most common one is the IBC tank. These white tanks where we keep the fish. It is smaller and it houses about 100 fish. You can have tilapia or catfish raised in there. Even though you need to apply the condition that I mentioned earlier, like if the tilapia, you need your aerator to go. It can also be glass pond. Glass pond, mostly these ponds are kept by ornamentalists or people who want to keep it for beautification. So when you go to offices or homes that they decorate, they have these types of ponds. The fish are swimming in there beautiful in a transparent glass where you can see them. People also practicing point and kill, like the restaurants, the chop bars, they also use this system where customer can just see through and point to a fish that he or she needs, and then they pick it for him or her. So these are the way. But if you are going for commercial farming, then glass pond is out of the discussion. Now, have a look at the water holding structures. Now let's look at water supply. The second equipment or gear you have to need is your water. And then the water, you have to talk about the water source. This is very, very important because water might be good for you as human consumption, but it might not be good for fish. For instance, the metropolitan assembly water, what we simply call tap water, it is good for human consumption, but it is not ideal for fish because it has high chlorine, and chlorine kills fish. But that's not to say that you cannot use that water to produce fish. Absolutely, you can use. And I can say that about 90% of fish farmers in Tamale, they are using or we are using tap water. However, there's a way you have to use it, and that is you need to fetch it down for hours, I suppose, that you can use it. Apart from that, if you are going to change it to your fish, if you can do if you also do partial water change, it's going to be good. But complete water change, and at that instant, if there's high chlorine, that can also kill them. Apart from tap water, which we say is so ideal, you can also use well water, which is also very important. Well water, you can use well. You can also use borehole. Now, either of this, make sure that that water is not so hardy water. And you know how to determine hard water. When we're in school, science, you say hard water, water that does not lather with soap, and then we say soft water, water that lather with soap. So basically, you can just use that manual way to test. Yes, if the water is so hardy, then you can apply the same principle as the tap water, and you are good to go. But it's not soft water, you can just have it direct, and you are good to go. Now, what is also ideal is river water, dam water, sea water might not also be ideal because sea mostly contains salt, and the salt content, if it is high, it kills fish, especially catfish and tilapia. Now there are other fish that are growing in salt water, and those fish, that's why you find them in the sea. But catfish and tilapia, you hardly find them in sea because of the salt component. So this one too, if you are going for catfish or tilapia, then this might also be out of coverage area unless you treat it. Now, having gotten your water source, it's also good to have storage tank. Yes, I said storage tank for many reasons. To store the water in case of emergency and you don't have water closer, you can use that water. Or store the water, like I was telling you, if it is water that is hardy or that is tap water with high chlorine, if you store it for longer period, it becomes safe and you can now use it in future. Or probably if you're using water that is sometimes off and on, and you don't have storage, there could be emergency case you have to change the water and you don't have water around or available, and that can also lead to mortality. So it is good to have a storage tank where you can store the water and use it at any time. Now, having gotten this, we need your pipings, your water hose, your valves, and all this to do your connections. Some people prefer to connect pipes or lay pipes to around the pond where they just open and it falls directly into it. Others decide to use water hose, connect it to the water source, and go and put it in the pond and it flows it. Whatever method that you choose is absolutely good for you. You should have your inlet and outlet of your tanks and everything, and then make sure that everything is good in place. And before you even talk about installing your farm or your fish bringing them, because water is very important. The third thing, which is also very essential, is irrigation system. Irrigation system, like I mentioned earlier, it is going to be impossible to raise tilapia in concrete pond or tarpaulin pond or glass pond or plastic tank without aeration. Yes, unless of course we have to be changing the water probably every day, and that is also stressing the fish. But for catfish, probably they can survive in the water without aeration, and them too, you'll be changing the water probably once a week or twice a week, depending on their stage and your stocking density. Aeration, it comes in several ways. You can have the air pumps or air blowers. We have air blowers. They are machines that blows air and it passes through into the pond, and that's fine. You can also have air stones and diffusers, and this it digs oxygen in the form of something like a stone. They put air hose to it, connect it to the pump, and the pump pumps the air. It comes through and then it comes out of the, and then it digs bubbles, and that's the additional oxygen. Now, another essential tool, which is the fourth one, is flotation system. This is absolutely optional, and I'm saying optional, but I brought it as the essential because it saves you a lot of water. And if you have flotation system, you can couple with aeration system. It means that you can run your farm continuously without changing the water or without constantly changing the water. And under the filtration system, we have them in three major types. We have the biological filters. Biological filters, as the name suggests, is simple introducing bacteria biology. Introducing those bacteria, and those bacteria consume or they break down the high ammonia and then the waste of the fish and convert it to useful, and then it's good for the fish. That is also one aspect of filtration. And we also have chemical filtration, and chemical filtration has to do with introducing chemicals into the pond. And now these chemicals will also break down the harmful or high ammonia, and now you are good to go. And the last one, which is the most recommended one I will recommend to you, is the mechanical filters. This mechanical filters, it has less side effects. Why? Because you have barriers in place. You have physical barriers. They are not chemicals. They are not biological. Where it also depends on other factors. But you connect it physical to the system where the water passes through the system and the waste of the fish is trapped and the clean water goes back into the pond and that continues to work. And that pure example is the recirculating aquaculture system, which we commonly install for people because that's what we're also using our farm. And in fact, this is recommended, like I said, it has less side effects. And if it's working fine, then you are good to go. The disadvantage of this is that often or mostly they use pumps, and these pumps require electricity. But the good news is that it consumes less power. Now, if you also want to learn how to do this flotation system your own, we have a link in description where we have a complete course, DIY, do it yourself. If you enroll in that course, you can learn everything yourself and you can implement it and you are good to go. And you have your water issue solved without even having much cost. Now check it out in the description. If you also want us to come and install it in your farm for you, then contact us. Boom, we will be there in few minutes or days and we will sort it out for you. Now, have a look at this. The fifth one is fish handling tools. In fact, as you have your fish in your pond day in, day out, you need to be managing the farm. You need to be handling the farm. So there are essential tools that you need or you ought to have in your farm to be able to have this daily fish handling. One is the scooping net. The scooping net is a net that you can or you use to scoop or something like to fetch the fish from the pond. This is very important, especially if you have more water in the pond. It is easy. You can use it to catch some of the fish, and you need it all the time because If you want to weigh your fish, that's what you have to use. If you want to separate your fish, for instance, if you want to isolate a fish, that's what you have to use. If there's a dead fish, you want to take it out, or something in the pond, you want to take it out, scooping net is the best to use. So that is why you always have to have it. And then, more importantly, during harvesting time, you need scooping net. The second thing is sealing or dragging net. And this net is a net that you can cast. It is a wider one where you have to hold it at the end of this corner. Someone also at the end of this corner, you drag it to the end and pick up the fish. This is very important, especially if you want to harvest your fish and your fish is a large quantity. This can harvest a lot of fish at a time, like scooping net where you can just harvest only few, but this one you harvest a lot of fish. But the disadvantage is that it is difficult to use by individual. You need one or two, or you need two or more people to be able to use it. And also, if the water quantity is larger in the pond, you cannot use this net. You need to drain the water to the minimum level or to the bottom level, and it becomes easier. Another essential fish handling tool is sorting board or grading net. This is what you use when you want to separate the bigger fish or the smaller fish. Then you use the sorting board. You just take the fish, put them inside it, and then you are easily able to separate them into sizes. That's what we call grading board. Now, you also need bowls or buckets to be managing the farm. For instance, anytime you want to weigh your fish to see their scale, you need buckets. Anytime you want to harvest your fish, you need bowls, you need buckets to do that. And the last thing under fish handling tools is that you need weighing scale. In fact, this is very important. This is very important because as you are growing your fish, it is good once a while to weigh your fish to see how they are growing, to see how they are increasing in weight. And the importance of this is that you are able to tell the feed conversion ratio. As well as the feed that you are giving them, they are able to convert it to body weight through the way that you're able to tell. So all the time you need to be doing this, and that requires skill. And more importantly, during harvesting, most often when customers are coming to your fish to buy, they don't come with their scales. Probably they don't even have the scale at all. It is your responsibility to have your scale down. Even if they come with their scales, sometimes some of them adjust their scales in a way that it will not be really accurate, and that could be a cheat for you as a farmer. For instance, right now, I know a farmer who is about to harvest his fish. He doesn't have a scale. Right now, he's looking for scale to borrow to do because he doesn't have money to buy scale now. So if you have this from the onset, you are good to go. The fifth one, which is essential, is security and protection. In fact, providing security in your fish is very, very important as keeping the fish themselves because you are likely to lose your fish in several ways. One, predators can consume your fish. Predators are birds and living organisms that come into your water, pick up the fish, and go. Now, they are not always consuming the fish. They can also contaminate the water that can lead to disease or mortality of your fish. So this is very important. So to do that, providing what we call predators nets, cover the surface of the pond. If any bird or any organism comes to descend into the water, it serves as a barrier. That's one security net. Also, excessive sunlight is sometimes very harmful for your fish, especially if the water in the container is not that huge, where if there's a excessive sunlight, it can sustain the temperature. Then providing shade net to cover your fish pond will become the best way because the fish needs sunlight to grow, but not excessive. So if you provide the shade net, it takes away the sunlight in a percentage, depending on the size of or the type of net that you are buying. Some take 60%, some take 80%, some take even up to 90%. So this is also good. Now, you need to also fence or to provide fencing or enclosure for your fish. Because look, I have instances several where thieves bounce into people's farm and steal their fish. There are a lot of examples. I know one of my colleagues, that was his first time. His fish, they stole them. I know another person too, they stole his fish. So, and there's a saying that when a frog in front falls into a pit, others behind take caution. So, as they are stealing their fish, and you know, what do? Fence it, provide enclosure where unauthorized people cannot have access to your farm. and that is very good. The seventh one, which is also most important, is power and electricity. In fact, like I mentioned earlier, if you're using aeration system, if you're using security, or if you're using flotation systems, these use pumps, and these pumps require electricity. So having electricity at your farm is essential. Yes. So having electricity is essential. And you can have that either you have through the national grid, or you have solar systems or generators, whatever method. But make sure you have electricity to use as it is necessary. It's also good to have stabilizer to keep the electricity in a relatively normal rate. For instance, I've seen instances where submersible pumps are being bent because of power fluctuation, low current, high current. And this is very common in Ghana and other parts of Africa. So if you have a stabilizer that can regulate the power, and then it becomes essential, and that is good for you. Now, the eighth one, which is also essential, is feeding tools. In fact, if you are going to feed your fish, you need things that can help you. So you can have the feeding cup, and you have your feed or storage container. The container is where you fetch the feed in. For instance, this could be our feeding cup, this could be our feeding container. So I'm going to demonstrate it to you. Now, I'll fetch this. So I did to just pour all this. So this becomes my feed storage container. Then this becomes a cup. The cup could be any cup that you think is good for you. Then I fetch it this way, and then I give my fish. Now, this is it. So you have the feeding container. So these things are very necessary. Yes, there are professional cups or containers, but anyone that you choose, you are good to go. I wish I show you how they have consumed the feed. The small one I just give them. So now, the ninth essential thing you need to know is monitoring tools. In fact, I mentioned earlier that water is life when it comes to fish. So there are parameters in the water that is always ideal for the fish. For instance, when we talk about pH, potential of hydrogen, the ideal range for fish is 6.5 to 8.5. Now, if something above that 8.5 or below 6.5, so ideal. So now, if you have a test kit, pH test kit or ammonia test kit, this can always help you to test the pH to know, and this can also help you determine the ammonia and all those stuffs. So having test kits, thermometers, to able to test or to determine or to monitor your water temperature and the health of your fish is very important, and you need to have that from the word go. Now, have a look at these essential tools that you must have in your farm. There are 9. There are other optional tools, but they are helpful. They are not that compulsory, but if you have them at your farm, it will make your work lesser. And some of them are automatic feeders. And this is one of the laziest way of managing your farm. You don't have automatic feeders planted in your pond. All you have to do is to feed the automatic feeders with a feed. Just put the quantity in there and go to whatever you want or do whatever you want to do. And then the automatic feeder will be dispersing the feed into the pond. This has both advantages and disadvantages. As it makes the work easier for you and saves you a lot of time. Sometimes if you don't control it well, you can also overfeed the fish or underfeed the fish. So the human feeling of the feeding and the observation is always ideal. But this one also helps, especially people going for large commercial farmers. We also have water level sensors, where you install sensors into your farm or your pond, so that when you are filling in water and you are not around, when it gets to the level that you want the water to be, the sensor will trigger, and then the water will stop flow, will stop topping up or filling. That's another way. Also, you also have to have extra pumps There are instances where the pumps bend out and you have to get extra another pumps. So if you have extra pumps, in case instances like this, you can easily replace and then find a way to repair the other one. Now you also have CCTV at your farm. Like I mentioned earlier, security is very important, and you can have the security in different ways. You remember I mentioned enclosure or fencing in the as part of the essential, but I brought CCTV camera here because this can also help you monitor and it can provide extra layer of security, but it's total optional. It's total optional. But situation where you want to monitor your farm while not being around, it's very important. You can have this thing installed and then you are good to go. Now, this is one aspect or part one of this. So, if you have watched so far, I thank you so much. But if you want to get the complete understanding of fish farming, like I told you, this is going to be a mini course. Keep watching. We are going to have fish farming input. It's somehow different from this, but the AGS or the equipment cannot work alone. This supports it to work. Now, you can watch out the part two. We'll talk about the fish input. And if you're following us in this live stream, then continue watching. We'll take you through the fish farming input, which is very important and it can help you a lot. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please do so. Like, comment, share. Let me know your thought about this. My name once again is Abdulaziz Issa. I'll see you in my next video.